I joined the business school 20 years ago in the Lean Enterprise Research Centre as a researcher looking at how do you take a manufacturing improvement methodology that originated in Japan into the world of service. And I was so lucky to work with some of the global lean thinkers of the world, people like Peter Hines, John Baceno, Nicola Bateman. I really didn't appreciate what an amazing opportunity and honour it was, to be honest. And I worked on healthcare projects, university projects, Ministry of Justice projects. My glamorous assignment was with Nestle. So I worked with Nestle for 2 years on their Global Lean Learning Programme. Basically, it's a set of ideas which are all around how do you become the best organisation that you can possibly be. And at its actual heart, it's all around customer centricity. It's the belief that if we become obsessed with who our customers are and what they want, and we align all of our operations to be really sensitive to that customer requirement, we can sort a lot of things out. And of course, this is really interesting when it moves into a public sector context, because it's not so simple as I'm going to give you some money to get a piece of, I don't know, a bit of luggage, a book, in exchange for that service. In the public sector, of course, it becomes more complicated because there's finite resources and you've got multiple stakeholders and you've got the political position as well. But still, there's something really so powerful about having a clear sense of purpose and really thinking about that purpose and looking at all of your operations to say, well, is this activity actually helping to deliver our purpose? So Amazon is one of those organisations that just keeps going from strength to strength because of this customer obsession. And I teach a module called Strategic and Operational Decision Making on our Masters of Business Management. And it's really, I love it because I can talk about companies that I just fangirl over, like Amazon, like Premier Inn. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to share all of the elements that are so great about these companies with our students, with our business community, to say, actually, your success as an organisation is going to be what you want to be as a company, what's important to you. And we can look at these organisations and we can take the bits that we really appreciate and that we really want to try and think, well, what did that mean for us in our organisation? So the reason why we put big companies under the spotlight and sort of try and unpick how they work is because they often have something to teach us. And then it's our job to take that learning and make it relevant and meaningful the way that we want it to be meaningful within our own context. So delighted. And I've got to tell you how this session originated because it's pretty cool. People know that I love lean. People know that I love music and gigs. In fact, I met you at Music Geek. So I love bands, and Beyonce is my one true love, as well as Taylor Swift. Sorry, Taylor. And I was coming back from a Beyonce concert on the train, and I was just sat on a table, and I was just so full of Beyonce love. And I could tell that the people opposite me on the train, they were too full of Beyonce love. So we instantly started chatting and, how amazing she is. Lean didn't come up at that point. So with Joe Kapai, and he was like, oh, yeah, I work for Amazon Web Services. And I was like, you do? I love Amazon. Hello. You love Beyonce and you love Amazon. So we were just talking about, everything that I think about Amazon. And he was being really open, and we just kept in touch with that joyous thing that is LinkedIn. And I just said, I'd really love to do a session on the success of Amazon. Can you help me to organise it for Cardiff Business School? And Joe is so lovely, and he arranged for Andrew to come and join us today. So thank you so much for doing that for us, because we do have this amazing legacy of lean at Cardiff. And really pleased that Lean Competency Systems joined us this morning. The Lean Competency System, there you go, hello wave. We're really proud of our work with the Lean Competency System. The Lean Enterprise Research Centre created the framework that companies and accrediting organisations use to try and bring some of these approaches to their own organisation. So if you do care about operational excellence, and it comes in so many forms, service design, Six Sigma, then they're a really good organisation to talk to about how they can help you bring that structure and that clarity and that North Star really to your organisation. So I've rabbited on longer than I usually do. It's because I care about Beyonce and I care about lean, and I'd recognise Amazon as definitely a lean organisation. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Andrew. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you. Just checking first, can everybody hear me online before I get started? Can I get a thumbs up? Fantastic. So
Okay.
Just bear with me while I get the slides ready, and then we will get started. Here we go. So good morning, everybody, and thank you for that fantastic introduction. Not quite sure how I can follow that. I'm neither a fan of Beyonce and I haven't been called lean in a good while, so I'm already behind the curve on that one. So yeah, I'm going to do a bit of a talk on how Amazon views things like innovation and transformation as well, things like technology, culture. How I want to position it before we really get started, though, is this isn't about how Amazon is the best at everything and everybody else should be like Amazon. It's not at all like that. This is just talking about some of the techniques and methods and things that work for Amazon. One of the worst things you can do is try and photocopy the Amazonian culture and make it your own. But hopefully from this, there'll just be some things that are maybe thought-provoking or that you can take away and think, yeah, maybe we need to look at the way we do things a bit differently. So please take it in that spirit. By way of introduction, so I'm Andrew, Exec Lead for UK Education, Amazon Web Services. Been with Amazon almost 4 years now. Prior to that, spent 5 years as a Pro Vice Chancellor at the University of Staffordshire. So I'm very used to working with public sector organisations within the education sector at the same time. Just before we get into the detail, I wanted to say a little bit about my own personal story as well. So quite some time ago, many years ago, I was the first person in my family to attend a university, so it was a big thing at the time. I remember my mom making a very big thing of it. Went to University of Staffordshire to study software engineering. Partway through my studies, I actually became a single parent as well. But fortunately, there was a free nursery on the campus as well, so I could take my daughter, drop her off at the nursery, do some studying, do some coursework, go to the library, attend lectures, collect her and go home afterwards. Without that free nursery provision, I would have had to have dropped out of my university studies and my life would have taken a very, very different trajectory as well. So it's just this sense for me that universities can absolutely be a force for good for people. It's not just about the academic excellence. It's about the overall experience and the support that they can put in place. And then fast forward quite a few years in my role as the Pro Vice Chancellor at University of Staffordshire. Part of my portfolio was everything to do with technology, but also the campus as well. So the estate, the buildings. One of the initiatives I was lucky enough to be able to lead. Just wait for the slides to advance. Here we go. Bit of a lag. Was to build a bigger nursery so that just people a little bit like me could get the support that they needed when they were doing their studies. As you can probably see, it is very, very difficult to look sensible wearing a suit and a high-vis and a hard hat, and I'm not entirely sure I've pulled it off there. And that genuinely is a ceremonial shovel as well, so only brought out on a few occasions, but who knew those things existed? But that's just the story of why, in my role, I choose to stay close to education. It's a very important sector for me, and it's been a big part of my life at the same time. So, some background and context. Amazon in Wales. So we continue to invest heavily in Wales. It is an important area to us. I won't read all of these out, and I can share some of these stats afterwards, but over 1.8 billion has been invested in Wales, and that's a 1.7 billion contribution to GDP. In the whole of the UK, Amazon's contribution to the GDP is bigger than either the music industry, the film industry, or the Premier League as well. And we continue to invest. So hopefully some of you will have seen the announcement Last year, about the £1 billion of investment into the UK. So we continue to invest and create jobs in Wales and in the broader UK at the same time. There is an AI skills gap. So I don't get paid unless I mention AI at least 10 times in one of these presentations. So do bear with me. But we are seeing that there is more and more of a demand for AI skills across the country. On this slide, it's positioned as an AI skills gap. I actually prefer to see it as an AI skills opportunity, because that is something that we can all get ahead of and use it as a bit of a differentiator. Let's start getting people AI skills. Let's start recruiting people, supporting them, and putting them in a position to succeed. So as it says here, around about 47% of new UK jobs at the moment require AI literacy, and that will continue to grow and grow. We have a programme that recently, just this year, came to the UK called the Tech Alliance. And that is about preparing around about 100,000 learners, if not more, with AI skills. And we work in collaboration with educational institutions, so that's universities, colleges, to equip students with AI skills. But we also work with employers as well. So we have a collaboration of employers who are helping to tell us these are the types of skills that we need from graduates. So it's not just a case of we come in and force a curriculum onto students and then the employers just get whatever has been provided. It is a real collaboration. And at the end, we try and provide jobs as well for those students. So it's a new thing in the UK. You can read much more about it on the internet, widely, readily available. Please do have a look at that. But it's a programme that we're really excited about. We have other skills programmes as well that we are using and deploying across Wales. AWS Educate, so that's more online self-study, so self-paced as well. Skills around cloud, around data, around things like AI. We have AWS Academy as well, where we much more heavily integrate with places like universities. We provide content for lecturers to deliver courses and skills, through to things like Restart as well. So that's aimed at unemployed or underemployed individuals. And we quickly, in a kind of crash course style way, give them cloud skills and can connect them with job opportunities as well. So really trying to invest in people and make sure that the country has the skills it needs in order to grow and succeed at the same time. We've got cohorts running this year and the previous year in collaboration with Sky Academy, if you're familiar with them. We're developing at the moment, for those that aren't aware, a Welsh language, large language model as well, which is easy for me to say, in collaboration with the local government as well. So again, continuing to invest in Wales. My wife is actually Welsh. She's from Caerphilly, which isn't a million miles away from here. And I know if she were here, she would completely obliterate me when I go on to murder the name of the Swansea multi-back. So I'm going to attempt it. Please don't hate me, but my understanding is that it's Cwtchmawr. Not too bad. Did I pass? Okay, thank you. Please, yeah, I'll provide her contact details afterwards if you could. That would be a source of comfort for me. But yeah, applause. Thank you very much. Thank you. But essentially, again, working in collaboration to help address things like food poverty as well. So social value is one of the big areas that we're interested in at Amazon. So if you've got thoughts or ideas about Think Big initiatives, if there are ways that we can make a big difference to society, then we really want to hear those ideas as well. Okay, so as part of my role, I speak a lot with startup companies, ed techs, people like health techs as well, public sector institutions, leadership roles. We have things called executive briefing centres, where they come in, we talk about their strategy and how maybe technology can play a role. During those, on average, the word AI is mentioned every 6 minutes. And that's closely followed then by digital transformation. So still this idea that it's really important that we need to do digital transformation. Our research suggests, though, that globally, around about 70% of digital transformation efforts don't actually reach their goal. So lots of investment, lots of effort, but they don't always deliver what people set out to achieve. On top of that as well, so Collins Dictionary has a word of the year every year. I believe this year it was vibe coding. A couple of years ago, it was permacrisis. So this idea that we've just seemed to have been walking from one crisis to the next. There was the global pandemic, war in Ukraine, conflict in the Middle East, a high inflation economy, energy poverty. It just feels like it's been a really tough time for businesses and public sector to be operating in. It's been pretty challenging. On top of that as well, consumer expectations constantly rise. So this is an order that is on record as being placed in a Starbucks, genuinely, in the US. So I'm certainly glad I wasn't behind that person in the queue. I'm old enough to remember that when I used to go to a coffee shop, I probably had two choices. Do you want milk? Do you want sugar? And it was as simple as that. These days, though, consumers, customers, they tend to want things just the way they like them. So they want things tailored around their own expectations. It's not just this idea of off the shelf anymore. So consumer expectations are increasing all the time. Just spent a couple of minutes sucking all of the fun out of the room. Probably beginning to understand why I don't get invited to many parties, to be honest. So digital transformations fail. It's a tough operating environment and customer expectations are through the roof. So why do we bother with digital transformation? Why bother with technology? A couple of good reasons, actually. So every era of human progress is underpinned by a disruptive technology. It also tends to be named after that disruptive or foundational technology as well. From the Stone Age through to the Iron Age, through to the digital age. Some people are now suggesting we're entering the age of AI, which we could well be. What I would say on that is, if I was doing this presentation probably about 5 years ago, I might have been saying we're about to enter the age of blockchain, and that didn't happen. So sometimes these technologies can be overhyped. What tends to happen, though, is with disruptive technologies, they are overhyped in the short term, but underhyped over the long term. So an example of that is something like the telephone. So when the telephone first came out, it probably took about 30 years just to get 5% adoption. But then all of a sudden, there's this long tail of adoption and it becomes pervasive and it transforms the world of work, how we lead our personal lives as well. So that's one way to look at disruptive technologies. On the whole as well, technology has traditionally lifted all boats as well. So it has led to improved health and longevity. It's led to improved levels of education and improved levels of gross national income as well. So when used properly, it can be a force for good. The only caveat I'd add to that is that sometimes these benefits aren't always equal across society. And that's something we really need to lean into. Sometimes we can end up with the haves and the have-nots. If I look today, there are some students that can afford generative AI tools, and there are some students that can't. And we need to make sure that we level the playing fields and make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity. So that's something to bear in mind when we're starting to use some of the technology like artificial intelligence. There we go. I may even be getting my bonus this month because I'm mentioning generative AI now, but it's here now. It's very early days, but it is advancing all of the time. One of the reasons is because of the huge amount of data that is now available and the huge amount of compute capacity that is around. So I've said that quite a lot of digital transformations fail. What is the underlying issue? So why do most of them fail? And essentially, it isn't so much about the technology. It's really that the rate of change within a lot of organizations hasn't kept up with the rate of change or the pace of change with technology. So a lot of organizations aren't very well set up or configured to make the best use of technology. Someone once said that if the rate of change outside your company is faster than the rate of change inside your company, then you are at risk. So that is one of the challenges. When it comes to digital transformation, I often think that the digital bit is actually the easiest bit. The technology, it's the transformation aspect that's hardest. Enabling people, changing the way that you work to make better use of the technology. It's not as simple as just buying something and installing it. That typically doesn't always work. Another reason is that technology has to align with policy and process as well. So for anybody unfamiliar with the Locomotive Acts, when the automobile first started to appear on UK roads, the glorious government at the time came out with the Locomotive Acts. And that stipulated that for every automobile on UK roads, they had to be crewed by at least 3 people, one of whom had to march 5 paces ahead, waving a red flag. So what that quickly does is it undoes one of the big benefits of an automobile. It can go faster than walking. So that's an example. If policy, procedure doesn't align with the technology, then you're not going to get the biggest benefit. On top of that as well, so hands up anybody in the room who has either worked for, continues to work for, or has worked with a large, complex or public sector organisation. Quite a few people. So it'd be interesting to know, and some people virtually as well, thank you. It'd be interesting to know whether any of the following statements resonate in terms of if you can recognise any of these or if you've experienced them. So don't permit shortcuts to be taken in order to speed up decision making. Where possible, refer all matters to committees for further study and consideration. Make committees as large as possible, never fewer than 5 people. In universities, we particularly like committees, we really do. Haggle over the precise wording of documents and minutes, so let's spend the first 30 minutes of every meeting going over the previous one. And then probably my favourite, that thing that we agreed to do probably a month ago, let's reopen that and have another philosophical debate about it rather than getting on with it. So hands up if at least one of those you sort of recognise and you've seen happening. The interesting thing is that all of those verbatim have come from that book there on the other side. That was declassified a couple of years ago. So it's the Simple Sabotage Field Manual. So the US intelligence services used this to go to countries and economies that they wanted to disrupt, that they wanted to move slower than the US, and they used this to sow inefficiency. But to some of us, it almost looks like an operating manual, doesn't it? So again, the point to take away here is let's not just set fire to all governance and process. It does have its place, of course it does. But maybe when we're looking at some of the disruptive technologies like AI, we need to spend some time internally looking at, are we set up in the right way to make use of it? Do we need to look at process, governance, and all of those things? So that brings me on to Amazon and our mission. So it is, as was helpfully mentioned, to be Earth's most customer-centric company. So customer centricity drives us on a daily basis. That is our vision statement. For those of you unfamiliar with Amazon, I suspect there aren't many of you out there, but we have a large retail website. AWS, Amazon Web Services, world's largest cloud provider. We deliver and provide devices as well, so Alexa, the Kindle, devices like that. Prime Video, we have our own streaming content as well. So we commission series, films, and deliver entertainment content. We deliver consumables as well, and even physical retail shops. So quite a broad organisation across a number of areas. I'm going to talk a little bit about how Amazon organises for innovation. And it's 4 key ways, 4 key areas: culture, architecture, mechanisms, and organisation. Most of the focus, to be honest, will be on culture. One of the things that I would say about Amazon is that we are heavily driven by our culture. In terms of my transition into Amazon, it's been one of the most eye-opening things, is that we spend a significant amount of our time maintaining our culture and ensuring that we don't fall into what we call a day 2 mindset. Day 2 for us is decline and stagnation. It's where suddenly things appear too hard. A day 1 culture is where anything's possible. It's your first day in the job. Things are exciting. Let's go and try something. Day 2 is when things start to decline. So we work really hard to maintain that day 1 culture. Essentially, this is Amazon, the Amazon retail strategy in a single diagram. So we believe that by offering a good customer experience, that will mean we drive more traffic to the Amazon retail website. If we get more traffic, that means we will attract more sellers onto the marketplace on Amazon. More sellers means a better selection for our customers, which then means a better customer experience again. That's really good. We believe in something called flywheels. So in that model, How do we accelerate that? How do we really build momentum? And we do that. Basically, we had a choice. With the increased number of sellers and the increased number of traffics, that can generate more revenue. That means we can either increase our prices and make even more profit, or we can lower our prices. We choose to lower our prices because that means a better customer experience, and it acts as a force multiplier to spin that even faster. So the more sellers that are on there, the more traffic, the more we can lower prices, the more customers come on, and it just keeps the momentum going. Essentially, that's the business model for Amazon in one diagram. We have 16 leadership principles. So again, this is what drives our culture. This is how we hire people. This is how we reward them as well. In a lot of organizations, sometimes things like principles, they're almost just a poster on a wall that people look at once and then walk away. This genuinely drives our behavior on a daily basis. These are all widely available on the internet as well, so you can search for them, you can look at them, and explains each of them. I will be picking out a couple of these and talking a little bit about them during my session. Probably the most important, customer obsession, as it was mentioned. So if I had to pick one that was probably front of mind every single hour, it would be customer obsession. And for us, so here's an interesting quote from Jeff Bezos, the founder. His view is that customers are always beautifully, wonderfully dissatisfied. So we saw earlier that consumer expectations keep increasing. To Amazon, that's a really positive thing. We don't worry about that. We actually embrace it, because for us, customer dissatisfaction is our single biggest source of innovation and invention. 90% of the things that we've created have come from customer feedback and customer dissatisfaction. The other 10% is when we're looking around corners and inventing things that customers haven't asked for yet, but we think we can solve a problem for them. So rather than just push it away, we actively make sure that we equip the entire workforce with sources of customer dissatisfaction. An example of this, so there was a time, probably a few years ago, if I were to order something from the Amazon retail website and I could get it delivered the next day, that was a pretty good thing. I was really impressed with that. These days, if I go on the Amazon website and I order something and it isn't available for next day delivery, I may get a bit grumpy. So my expectations have increased. So that leads us, Amazon, to look at, okay, how can we invent? How can we do same day delivery? How can we do things like drone deliveries? How can we make sure that our fulfillment centers are able to deliver on the same day? It's a constant source of innovation. One of the leadership principles, bias for action, which basically means to us, speed is incredibly important. We really want to be able to make good but fast decisions. And that's not always easy, is it? So what we do at Amazon is we equip everybody, the workforce, with things called mental models to help them make decisions. The classic one at Amazon, you may have come across this before, is one and two-way door decision making. So a one-way door is when you make a decision, you walk through the door, it shuts behind you, and you're left, you're stuck there. A two-way door decision is you make a decision, you walk through the door, you don't like what you see, so you just walk back. Essentially, it's a reversible decision. The vast majority of decisions we make on a daily basis are two-way doors. And we use this language internally. So we can be in a meeting and someone will say, is that a two-way door? Or that feels like a one-way door decision. By equipping people with this way of thinking, it really helps them to know when they can just make a fast decision. We encourage people, if it is a two-way door, just do it. Don't ask for permission. You have the autonomy to get on with it. And hopefully you will learn something from that. I would much rather someone came to me saying they'd made a two-way door decision, it didn't work, but this is what they learned from it, from someone coming to me saying, I'm thinking about doing this, it's a two-way door, what do you think? You should have already tried it. So for us, speed really matters. We see this quite a lot across the country at the moment. So some vendors turning up saying that generative AI is the answer when we actually haven't figured out the problem that we're trying to solve. That is very, very different to the Amazonian approach, which is customer obsession and starting with the problem, the customer and the problem. We don't use technology as a jumping off point. Every single customer-facing product, service, or solution that Amazon has ever created, from the Kindle to Alexa to AWS even, has made use of our signature innovation mechanism, which is called working backwards. So essentially, we start with a customer, with a persona, and work backwards, identify what the problem is or how we're going to add value to them, and work backwards from there. Everybody at Amazon will make use of this mechanism when it comes to generating ideas and refining their ideas as well. As it says there, we innovate by starting with the customers and working backwards. That's really important to us. We have a key document called the press release. That is how we express ideas at Amazon. It's a single page. It is highly structured, but it kind of mimics a press release. So if this product or service or solution were to be launched, what would the press release say? And essentially by doing that, we're thinking with the end in mind already. So we're not thinking about what we're building. What would the impact be? What would our customers be saying? How does it help them when we were to launch? Because it's a single page, that means we can democratize invention across the entire workforce. Anybody can write a single page. They're easy to pick up, read, and get a good idea of what someone is trying to achieve, rather than you may have seen like 50, 60-page business cases that just suck the life out of you when you're trying to read them. So it is a good way for us to democratize how we express ideas. And basically, the press release will answer these 5 questions. You will very, very unlikely get any investment of time, people, resource at Amazon unless you can answer these 5 key questions for your idea or your innovation. Who is your customer? And you need to be as specific as possible. So it's not just, well, everybody could be a customer. That's not going to cut it at Amazon. Be specific. What is the customer problem or opportunity you're trying to solve? What is the most important customer benefit as well? So sometimes in things like ideas and business cases, people want a new solution to be all things to all people. At Amazon, you need to really pull out what is the single most important benefit. If we could do one thing really well, what would that be? Rather than trying to be all things to all people. So it helps us prioritize. How do we know it's something that customers need or want? So do we have data to evidence it rather than it just being gut feel? And then finally, starting to think about what would the customer experience look like as well. So practically, how would they engage with this? Again, putting us into the mindsets of our customers, being customer obsessed and thinking about how they would make use of something like this. An example as well. So we have a willingness. We're a very, very long-term focused company, and we're happy to be misunderstood for a long time. That image is the original Kindle, the first release of it. It looks very different to the ones that you can get now. Heavy, it's got a keyboard on it. You couldn't even read that in sunlight either because the screen, it wasn't the e-ink screen. There was a single vision for the original Kindle though, and the biggest benefit, the one thing that it had to do well, was the ability for anybody to buy a book anywhere in the world within a couple of minutes. And it did that. So we built something called WhisperNet into the devices, so it had the mobile signal. Because it did that really well, that enabled us to then get customer feedback and iterate it. And eventually, you end up with that. So we didn't spend 10 years trying to perfect the Kindle and get it to that. We solved one problem really well, got customer feedback, and then kept releasing different versions of it and learning as we went. That's the Amazonian approach. People ask us what we're doing with AI. Essentially, Amazon is a company that is heavily built on AI. It's baked into the organization. We've been using it for over 25 years. 4,000 products a minute sold on Amazon.com. At one point, around about a third of the sales were related to customers who also brought this. So the recommendation engine, which makes heavy use of AI, Prime Air deliveries, billions of Alexa interactions, and 1.6 million packages delivered every single day as well. So we now have over 1 million robots across places like our fulfillment centers. One example as well of a innovation for us this year was Rufus. For anybody that's used it yet, actually named after a dog at Amazon as well, but it is essentially the chatbot on the retail website. The idea for this was to help customers make better informed purchase decisions. So we've deployed it. This year, we've had 250 million shoppers on it. People that use it are 60% more likely to make a purchase, and it is expected to generate $10 billion worth of additional sales as well. So this is an example of not just using a chatbot for a chatbot's sake, but for having a clear purpose. Let's help people make better buying decisions. And if we do that, good things will happen for us. And so far, that's exactly what we're seeing. I won't talk too much about the architecture at Amazon. Essentially, one of the reasons that we invented AWS was to create our own infrastructure, because our legacy infrastructure from another company was slowing us down. It was monolithic, it was expensive. If we made a change, something over here would break. So we created our own microservices. We created a way that we could make changes very rapidly in a safe and confined way that wouldn't have impact elsewhere. All of a sudden, we thought this could be useful for other people. And that's essentially how cloud came about. And so we've been running cloud now for over 15 years, long time, essentially. In terms of innovation as well, we really believe that you have to nurture a culture of innovation. So you have to be able to support things like experimentation, and you have to be prepared to fail. I think it's fair to say if you want, as an organization, to increase your rate of innovation, by definition, you have to increase your rate of failure, because the two go hand in hand. Okay, that can be quite a worrying thing. And you may think it's okay for Amazon to fail because you sat on all of this capital, etc. We weren't always, and we have always taken a long-term view. Not everything has worked out for us in terms of our inventions, but we know as long as we see failure as a stepping stone towards success, then that's a positive mindset for us. Hands up, anybody in the room that owns an Amazon Fire Phone? That's awkward. Yeah. I haven't met anybody yet, to be honest, except for internally. There's Jeff triumphantly holding one aloft at the product launch. They were a huge failure for us, so millions of stock that was left unsold. But the good thing about that is that the team that worked on the Fire Phone, from customer feedback, people actually liked some of the underlying technology. That went on to become Alexa. So for us, the Fire Phone was a big failure, but it went on to create Alexa, which is a huge area for us at the same time. I'm going to be honest, it's not often that you will get promoted at Amazon off the back of 50 spectacular failures. The core point is learning from failure. So if you try something and that helps improve what you do next, that's seen as really, really healthy. We also have something called two pizza teams. So this is the way we organize ourselves at Amazon. When we are looking at building something new, we have this idea that if a team cannot be fed by two pizzas, American-sized pizzas, I should probably say, then the team is too big. So we prefer multidiscipline teams, small, agile, that can own something, build it, and deliver. And also at Amazon, if you build something, you own it. It's not a case of you build it, it looks like it's a good idea, so you go on to do different things. If you build it, you're going to be owning it for a long time. That makes sure that when people are doing things, they're looking at it over the long term as well. They're building something knowing that actually I really need to drive success from this. It's not just throw it over the wall to someone else at product launch. And then finally, one of our other leadership principles as well, learn and be curious. And this is one of my favorite ones as well, particularly being close to the education sector. If we think about a kind of traditional journey, overly simplified, of course, but we can start off when we're in childhood. Many things seem wonderful to us. We're curious about a great deal of things. We may go to school, start becoming interested in certain things. We may even go to university then and specialize in a certain subject. We'll go into a career, get command of our skills as well. We might become a leader, a manager, or a business owner, used to being right and wielding some expert power, and then maybe, who knows, at some point we could get to retire. The challenge here is that typically the rate of learning declines over time. So just when we're at the point of being in positions where we can make a lot of decisions, that's when we're learning the least. So at Amazon, we make sure and we encourage that everybody has the time to continuously learn new things. That's really important to us, to get our heads up, look at what's happening with people like our customers, learn new approaches and embrace new learning. And that's one of the, hopefully, the takeaways from this. Sometimes in big organizations, there's a risk that leadership just say, training is something the staff do. Let's get all the staff trained on this, rather than modeling leadership themselves and learning and being curious. And that's really important to us. And again, sometimes the risk is what has made you successful and got you to the point of being a leader or a manager. They're not necessarily the skills that are going to help you get to the next stage, particularly when it comes to things like AI as well. So do test yourself, do stretch yourself, do expose yourself to new ways of thinking at the same time. There are many ways to innovate on AWS. We run things called working backwards workshops with people where we'll help them generate ideas and refine thinking and ideas as well. We develop things like proof of capabilities, but essentially, if you are interested in innovating with technology, then Amazon is a good organization to get in touch with. And that is a very, very quick run through that session, but very happy to take any questions that people may have.
Thank you so much, Andrew. That was everything I was hoping for and more. I was just sat at the front going, oh my God. Thank you. Any questions from the floor or online? Dawn, you're always first. There we go. Richard, I'll come to you in a minute. Thanks.
I'm interested in that you mentioned about your work in the public sector. And I guess my key question would be, which of the things that you see in Amazon have you or would you most like to nick and drop into university or public sector?
Oh, that's a good one. It's hard to pick one. And yeah, thank you. So Amazon isn't a perfect organization, and we don't pretend that it is. There are things that public sector does better as well. But what I really like about Amazon, number one, is its focus on culture. I would say leaders and managers probably spend around 2/3 of their daily activity on culture rather than their functional expertise. That's quite unusual. A good example as well is, so when I first joined Amazon, for most people, for the first 3 months, you're not actually allowed to do your day job. Typically, when you go into a new organization, you might be asked to come up with like a 30, 60, 90 plan, or you might feel as though I need to demonstrate impact as soon as possible to kind of build my credibility. At Amazon, you're not allowed to do that. For the first 3 months, you are immersed in the culture, you learn the culture, you start to build your internal network. It's because they want to prepare you for success over the long term. That's a really interesting approach for me. The other thing is the customer obsession. So if I'm being completely honest, sometimes when I was working at a university, we were more concerned about what other universities were doing rather than our students. So, oh, that university's done that, where's our version of this? So at Amazon, we are competitor aware. We understand what our competitors are doing, but we don't follow them. Competitor aware, but customer obsessed. So for a university, probably wouldn't use this language, but if we are student obsessed in the right sense, then that will drive us to make sure that the things we're designing and delivering are absolutely going to live up to their standards. If I go back to my time when I was a single parent, that was customer obsession, a free nursery provision. They didn't have to do that. That was absolutely focused on students. So I think that mindset is a big takeaway for me.
Brilliant, thank you. Is Luke, all right. So we've got a question from Luke online, Luke Padwick. Is there an if there is an organisation in permacrisis, how do you begin to pull out of it? So tips for an organisation in real crisis.
Great question. And so some of it for us is around culture, and I hate to come back to it, but customer obsession, because our view is that if we maintain our culture of customer obsession and constant innovation, no matter what happens tomorrow, so if all of a sudden tomorrow, for some reason, cloud was obsolete, nobody needed cloud anymore, we believe we would still survive because of our culture, because we are constantly being close to our customers and finding things to invent on their behalf. So with a perma crisis, and we've had some tough and challenging times as well, our customer obsession has always seen us through that, because we're always looking for opportunities for how can we add value rather than just looking internally too much.
Drew, the phrase that I like to use is the customer shines a light of simplicity on everything that you're doing.
Yes.
So actually, when you're in very chaotic, disordered, complicated times, you can just sort of think, why are we here? What is our purpose? If you're a healthcare organisation, it's to help sick people get better.
100%.
And that clarity of that purpose and that vision can really help to shine the light through the dark times.
Definitely. It's focusing on your differentiator. So, for example, at a hospital, is a differentiator running a data center and having all of that stuff to do? It's not. The differentiator is treating patients. That's what you should do. Yeah, that is what people want you to do. And that's where, if possible, you should invest most of your money. For a university, it's teaching and learning and research. If you're investing more in your differentiator, then you're going to be in a much more positive state as well. We also say as well that we kind of want to be able to invent our way out of trouble. Rather than optimize our way out of trouble, let's invent and let's look at what customers want and let's offer them something new.
I love that. Thank you. Zoe, thanks for your question. Can you unmute, or would you like me to ask the question?
Oh, thanks, Sarah. Happy to unmute if I can ask the question.
Thanks, Zoe.
Andrew, thanks so much for that. I was wondering if you could share further on the conditions needed to be an organisation that embraces failure. I can imagine that can be quite challenging. Were there particular conditions or particular organisational champions in Amazon that help this become part of the culture?
Yeah, definitely. So what I would say at Amazon is essentially it starts with a hiring process. So the way that we hire tests individuals against our leadership principles, one of which is invent and simplify. So when we're recruiting people, we're already testing, are they innovators? Are they builders? We want everyone at Amazon to be what we call a builder, to have the opportunity to spot things and think, we could do that differently, we could innovate. So we make sure that the workforce that we bring in, and then we help develop them with things like working backwards approaches, that they are set up ready to innovate. We create that culture where they can innovate. We democratize it by use of things like the press release. So really simplifying the expressing of ideas and just creating those conditions as well. Not every idea, you probably won't be surprised to know at Amazon, makes it to execution. But we are all encouraged to express ideas, to spot things. Innovation for us as well, it can be small scale. It could be, somebody in a fulfillment center spotting an inefficient process or just thinking, why do we do that? And if we could shave 10 seconds off, say, a picking process, imagine what we could do if we scaled that across all of our fulfillment centers. So it can be someone really on the shop floor spotting something, or it could be somebody thinking about cloud, thinking about, customers in another country using something. So there are very different scales to innovation for us at the same time.
Brilliant, thanks. And I missed a question from David. David, can you unmute, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Janie. Thanks, Andrew. That was really, really interesting. My question is, what is the vision of the future for Amazon over the coming decade?
Great question. And essentially, it is to remain customer obsessed. So we don't know what the future holds, but we believe that if we keep inventing on behalf of customers, then we will be in good shape. So even when it comes to, there is a big boom in things like generative AI, our approach is, rather than using generative AI as the jumping off point, what problems or challenges do customers have? If we can solve that with generative AI, then again, we'll be in a good place. So that's why things like Rufus have come about as well. So we'll continue to invest. We see lots of opportunity. So we think there is a very positive future. But as I've said before, as long as we remain close to our customers, we believe we'll be successful over the future.
Brilliant, thank you. Xiaobei Wang, are you there? Can you ask your question? Oh, someone needs.
So,
yeah, thanks.
hear me. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. Very interesting, presentation. So I just got a question about the idea of customer centrality driven by Amazon, because I feel like the concept of customer centrality is really fit for the traditional business, like manufacturing firm. But for Amazon, it is different because Amazon is platform business. Platform business that you need to address two sides of the market, the customer and also the sellers. So therefore, I'm thinking about, is customer driven only actually limiting Amazon? So is it a good idea to shift from customer centrality driven to the ecosystem centrality driven? For example, ecosystem means the seller and the customer centrality driven for Amazon. So
Yeah, no, a really good challenge. So thank you. So again, to us, customer centricity, it's within the DNA of the organization. So I can't see a world where we move away from that. But just to caveat it as well, a customer to us, it could be an internal customer, it could be an external customer. So because we have that view, we don't see any limits in terms of how we can invent, because there are so many customers out there, externally, internally. They all face different challenges. That's a huge opportunity to innovate on their behalf. And we don't have to solve everything ourselves. Where we do tend to invest heavily is when something becomes a differentiator for us. So a good example of that is logistics. So there was a time where we just relied on other third parties to do deliveries, but actually with things like Prime and next day delivery, we saw logistics as a differentiator for us. So we did things like Prime Air and our own logistics, and we will start to do things if we see it can be a differentiator that benefits our customers at the same time. So there are still plenty of opportunities for us to go at.
Thank you. Dawn, did you want to? Yeah. No, it's just you were the first person the last time, so I've got to spread the love. Thank you.
So yeah, Dawn, I did promise you I'd have a question for you. Listening to you say, you're inventing your way out of trouble and being customer obsessed, customer focused. Over the last few years, you've had quite a lot of bad press with the amount of things that you're burning and damaging. And stuff on this how table. Are you becoming customer focused on the customers that are obsessed with being environmentally friendly and reducing your
for the camera.
Damaging reputation in terms of environmental health? Because I think that Jeff Bezos removed 10 billion in the funding for the Earth Aware Fund that he did.
I'm not aware of Jeff Bezos's sort of personal investments at the moment, to be honest. But what I would say, so one of our leadership principles is
we had one Amazon. Yeah, we did have one Amazon.
Actually to energy as well. So we don't see it that way, no. So we're investing in it. We're investing in places like wind farms. We are transitioning to renewable energy at the same time. Actually as well, research demonstrates that the use of cloud and AWS data centers are in the region of about 4.5 times more carbon efficient than the average UK data center as well, because of the scale of the investments we can make. The other thing I'd say as well is we're working with people like traditional energy companies to help them transition onto cleaner sources as well, to help them invent, to help them use technology. So are we there yet? No. Are we on a path to being completely carbon neutral as an organisation? We absolutely are. Will we achieve it ahead of a great many people? Yes, we will. Are we investing in it? Heavily, and we will continue to do so. But it's important that we do challenge each other, because absolutely it is a key topic. So thank you for the question there.
Thank you. Owen? This is the last question as well. There's so many questions coming in online, and I know that there's lots of people in the room as well. So thanks so much. But the last point from you, we like to end really close to 9:30. Thanks.
I'm just really keen to find out. So you mentioned all the different products and services, but you didn't mention, I can never pronounce it. Is it Kuiper, the kind of
Yes.
competition to Starlink?
Yeah.
How does that sit within the portfolio, and what are the plans for the rollout of that?
Yeah, so we're really excited about that. You'll see lots of news, and essentially, for those that aren't aware of Kuiper, basically, it will create satellite signals consistently in hard-to-reach places as well. So a really consistent signal. Again, we're looking at solving a customer problem there. It's an area we've heavily invested in. Even at Amazon Web Services alone, we have over 200 services as well. So even internally, it's hard to keep up at times. But Kuiper actually is one that I'm particularly excited about. So it's a really good shout out. There's quite a lot available on the internet that you can go and have a read about if you're interested. But again, it's a way we think we're innovating. It's a way we think we can differentiate as well. Hence the levels of investment.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew. So fascinating to get a real insight into how Amazon operates. And again, as I said at the beginning, every company that we inspect and examine, there's things that we love about them. There's things that we don't want to copy that or emulate that. I think what's been so brilliant today is that you've given us some insights in some of the really powerful drivers for absolute innovation that Amazon pursues. And I'm really grateful for you sharing that with us. So thanks so much, everyone, and thanks for coming.
Thank you.